This is KEXU 96.1 FMLP. This is JV, and this is Free Aztlan on Pole People's Revolutionary Radio. Starting April 15th, the Santa Clara County jails have begun a hunger strike. This is the third hunger strike in 3 years. And so all the county jails are participating. You know, they did this in the last 3 years. They've been hunger striking, and the conditions have not improved. They continue to suffer in solitary confinement. You know, federal judges have already decided that was against the U.S. Constitution. Not that really applies to us, because we know for the oppressed nations people that the U.S. Constitution only means we have paper citizenship. That means nothing to us. We continue to suffer the same abuses, repression, and oppressive conditions that we've been suffering for hundreds of years here. So, you know, once again, you know, the courts say, you know, it's unconstitutional, and the jails and prisons continue to do otherwise. So, as always, the people have took it upon themselves, took things into their own hands, and have begun to starve themselves. So, you know, this is already going on a week, coming up on a week that they've been without food. You know, some of these men have health conditions, so they're putting their health in jeopardy. There may be deaths, and this is something, you know, that the state cares nothing about. You know, just like in prison, when we did the hunger strike, you know, went on 60 days, and the state could care less. So, you know, I wrote an article concerning that, and what I said was that the state took a page out of Margaret Thatcher's playbook, and where she allowed the hunger strikers in Ireland to die in 1981. And so the state is, you know, it doesn't matter if it's the state here, the oppressor state in Ireland, the oppressor state in Israel. It doesn't matter where it's at. You know, in the world, there's two contradictions. You have the oppressed nations and the oppressor nations. And that's the principle, the main contradiction in the world today. So it doesn't matter what part of the world we're in, we're always going to see these contradictions erupt and be in constant struggle, because there's a continuous power struggle in everything in society, and this is just one of them. So, you know, we want to support these hunger strikers. We want to do what we could. We want to flood the emails. We want to flood the phones of the sheriff, Lori Smith, Santa Clara County. She's responsible ultimately, you know, in this county. And, you know, she has the say-so, the final say to, you know, stop the hunger strike by granting these human decencies that these men are asking for. They're not asking to be released, which I would have probably proposed had I been in jail. Release us immediately, because most of these charges that these men are facing are mostly property charges. So these are poverty crimes. You know, you know, had they had $1 million lawyer, they would not be in jail. Had they been living up in Los Altos Hills, they would not be in jail. So it comes down to the reason they're in jail is because they couldn't afford proper representation, because that's all this the social system stands for, is whether you have enough money to avoid imprisonment, because that's what it comes down to. It's not a matter of crimes. It's a matter of who you commit that crime for. You know, just like I talked about before, the act of murder is not really a crime. If you're doing it on behalf of the state, on behalf of America in the military, you could kill 40 people and you'll be given a medal. But if you sit here and defend your family or your friends and those you grew up with in your neighborhood, guess what? One murder sends you away for life. So the act of murder is not a crime. It comes down to who you're killing for. The U.S. is fine with killing, as long as you're killing for them. You could kill around the world. You could be a serial killer in Syria, Afghanistan, or Iraq, and you'll be given a medal. This is how this system works. So Another situation I want to mention is the case of Miguel Araujo. And, he's a Mexican citizen. He's, he's being held right now in detention. And, he's a political prisoner. And he has court on May the 1st here in San Francisco Federal Court. He'll be there, and his supporters will be there. The Barrio Defense Committee, San Jose, has called on everybody everywhere to come and support Miguel Araujo. And the story behind him is, he was politically active in Mexico. He came here to the U.S., and because his life was threatened in Mexico, many things began to occur. The political repression from the bourgeois state, Mexico, the Mexican government, is no better than the U.S. government. So what happens is, they suffer a lot of repression as well in Mexico. So he was one of them. He was politically active. He came here to the U.S., continued his activism. He had a radio show. He took on political topics and spoke on the behalf of the oppressed. He continued his work here, and as a result, they had him on an ankle bracelet for 6 years. He was on an ankle bracelet for 6 years. So, they captured him. They put him in an ICE detention center. He was there for a period of time. They allowed him to leave, and they placed him on an ankle bracelet monitor, GPS monitor, for 6 years. And this was in order for them to locate him, see where he's going, see who he's interacting with, see his political connections, and, and mark his activity. Then they snatched him back up. Now he's in, when the oppressor in chief took power, Trump, they changed a lot of stuff concerning the deportation. And they ended up snatching him up and placing him in custody. So now he's back in custody. He has court May 1st. And what they're calling for is to deport him. The thing about Miguel Araujo is if he is deported, that's basically a death sentence. Because he's wanted in Mexico for political activity. And the government is not happy with his work. He does a lot of criticism. He's worked in a lot of ways to oppose the state, the Mexican state. And so to deport him, to deport Miguel Araujo, is a death sentence. Because once he is sent back over there, more than likely he will be murdered by the state. So it's very important that people support Miguel Araujo, that they go out, they go on May 1st, and they go to the courthouse, and they're there to support him and to do whatever we could in order to keep him here and in order to save this man's life. And so this is it for this week. This is JV. This is Free Aztlan. And, I just want to give a shout out once more to the men who are sacrificing and striving for, justice in the Santa Clara County jails. And they got their lives on the line. I got my Primo's there, and he's there. And Primo, I just want to say, I stand with you. I stand in unity with you and all the brothers and sisters behind the walls who are struggling for a better day and for justice against this corrupt criminal state. And this is KEXU 96.1 FMLP, Po People's Revolutionary Radio, JV, and this was Free Aztlan.